Hello, my name is Hakan Demirbüken. I'm a statistician and I had a master degree on remote sensing and GIS. I started my career working at Statistics Office of Turkey in 1992. Between 1992 and year 2000, I worked for the Statistics Office of Turkey and I was involved in estimation of serial cultivated areas by using satellite imagery and GIS and statistics techniques together. In year 2000, I left the government and I started to work for a private company. And later on, I started to work as individual. And in year 2001, towards the end of 2001, I joined United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime (UNODC) as a consultant. My role was to estimate the opium poppy field areas by using satellite imagery and GIS techniques, and of course in combination with the statistical methodologies. Just to give a little bit more the background about it, until year 2001, actually 2002 I can say that, including 2001, UNODC was estimating the opium poppy field areas only by ground visits. UNODC was visiting around 10,000 villages per year, and it was like a full census and making a different methodology. Just without measuring the opium poppy fields, I will not give more details on this unless you have questions. By using ground visits, UNODC was estimating the opium poppy fields. As of 2002, starting with my career in UNODC, I started to change the technique from ground visits to using satellite imagery and GIS. Actually, I would like to thank to my supervisors, Sandeep Chawla, Thibault Lapichon, and Dennis Destrubek to give me such a chance. And I really would like to give a lot of thanks to Thomas Pichman, who really supported me in 2002, because it was really risk for them to give such a chance to a young professional and trusting on me. Before going further, I would like to announce why I make these videos, because I feel that there are a lot of unknowns still about opium poppy cultivation in Afghanistan. This is the first thing. Secondly, I believe there are some wrong arguments about or wrong understanding about the rules of opium poppy cultivation in Afghanistan. And thirdly, I believe some people, some organizations, or even some countries, they are very unfair on Afghanistan. I lived in Afghanistan between 2002 until 2002 and 2005 permanently, and then since then actually I keep going to Afghanistan regularly for different purposes. I worked between 2002 and 2015 for UNODC as a project manager. First, between 2002 and 2009, I was project manager for opium poppy estimation project, and then after 2009, I left. In 2009, actually, I left the project and I handed over to another group in UNODC. And my next responsibility was to analyze and research the trafficking of Afghan opiate. Opiate means heroin, morphine, and opium all around the world. Between 2002 and 2009, I published, or I prepared all the opium poppy survey results together with my colleagues, very nice colleagues, my Afghan colleagues, Zia, Nazir, Satar, my good friend who died a couple of years ago, and many others. Rahim, there are many others. I really thank to all of them. The Afghan team made a great job. In 2009, I started to work on the trafficking of Afghan opiate trade, and we developed many groundbreaking research studies. I would like to thank to my colleagues Haidar Mili and Hamid Azizi for their support and for their really good work working with me. Now I would like to start with a question, maybe one of the wrong perceptions. Some people believe or says that in 2001, Taliban stopped the opium poppy cultivation in the country, and starting with 2002, as of NATO intervention in the country, opium poppy the cultivation started again. It is it is partially true. Yes, in 2001, the cultivation level in Afghanistan decreased down to 8,000 hectares. However, Taliban didn't do this because they were against opium poppy cultivation. I give you some more details about it. Afghanistan was not a major opium poppy cultivation until beginning of 1990s. Until 1990s, majority of the heroin consumed in the major markets like Europe and US was Myanmar and Laos, and actually more on Myanmar. Cultivation in Myanmar is mainly done in Shan State, China border of the country. I also visited the Myanmar several times. For your information, between 2002 and 2009, I was also responsible about making the estimations, opium poppy cultivation estimations in Laos, Myanmar, in addition to Afghanistan, and cannabis cultivation in Morocco. After 1990, between 1990 and 19 and year 2000, Taliban actually was actively supporting opium poppy cultivation in Afghanistan. They were benefiting from this trade heavily. Actually, it was their major source, opium poppy cultivation. Not only Taliban, but some other warlords or people who want to be in the power or organized crime groups, they were benefiting the opium poppy cultivation in Afghanistan. In 1994, Taliban was actually controlling most of the country, and then there was still high level of opium poppy cultivation in Afghanistan. It was between 50,000 to 90,000 between 1994 and year 2000. In 2001, actually, Taliban started the negotiations with the United Nations and, of course, the major countries about being recognized. Actually, they were very close. United Nations missions confirmed, actually UNODC confirmed, the opium poppy cultivation sharply down to 8,000 hectares in 2001. And so Taliban made the first actually promise to be recognized, and it was very much close to the recognition by United Nations as a regime. However, as you know, 9/11 happened in the same year. The U.S. government wanted Osama bin Laden from Taliban, and Taliban said no, and this was the end of the story for them. And U.S. and NATO forces started the mission to Afghanistan, and in a couple of months, the Taliban was mainly removed from Afghanistan. Early 2002, actually I arrived Afghanistan in March 2002. In March 2002, with a military plane, UN plane, and landed at Kandahar airport, and it was fully controlled by the NATO forces. my job started in 2002 March in Kandahar. Taliban, after Taliban was removed from the country, actually Taliban didn't left the country at all. Taliban just stepped out to Pakistan. Their their headquarters was in Quetta, and still in Quetta, and they were doing their operations in organizing their operations in Quetta, where is it is origin of actually Taliban. Taliban was not created by somehow normally. I mean, the Taliban was created by, or established or supported mainly by UK, supported by US in 1980s against the war. Russia occupied Afghanistan in 1980, and Taliban some groups were against the Russian occupation, and one of these groups were Taliban, and Taliban was supported by US and UK to remove to fight against Russian occupation. But after the war ended, after the Russians left the country at the end of 1980s, Taliban wanted to control the entire country, and Taliban regime is actually based on Sharia, but in a very weird way of Sharia. They put a lot of pressure. Actually, they tortured, they killed non-Pashtun ones, non-Sunni ones. Hazaras, Tajiks, they suffered quite a lot from the Taliban regime between 1994 and 2000. And I'm now very surprised international world in United Nations are supporting the peace talks with Taliban. An organization, a terrorist organization, which is totally believed in Sunni way of Islam and against the Hazara, Tajiks, and women rights in the country. Taliban, what will happen if Taliban gets the power again in Afghanistan? Who can guarantee that Sunnis will not suffer again, and women will not suffer again? Nobody can guarantee this. This is another topic we can discuss in another video. But in this video, I would like to answer some of the interesting unknowns and continue in the other videos to answer your questions. And I want to limit each video with maximum 20 minutes. Yes, in 2001, it was 8,000 hectares and poppy cultivation, of course, in Afghanistan. Year 2002, NATO arrived. First opium poppy survey was done by myself and my colleagues in Afghanistan, Afghan colleagues, together by using the satellite imagery. And satellite imagery technology was not actually developed as much as today, and it was very expensive. With the very limited resources in the United Nations office, we didn't have really enough amount of money to make the estimations, and we didn't have high technology products, but we use maximum of the resources we have. Can you imagine? We didn't have any image processing software in the United Nations office in the year 2002. I organized by myself some software, and then we had enough money to purchase software. Year 2002, my estimation was 74,000 hectares. And of course, it was a challenge to release this estimation, and because it was the first year of the methodology we tried. But my colleagues, again, my supervisor, Sandip Chawla and Thibault Lepichon, they were really brave and very, very much committed, and they released the figure, and it was accepted by the international community. After then, I continued the surveys in Afghanistan and wanted to hand over this methodology to Afghan government. There was no Ministry of Counter-Narcotics. There was no actually government capacity in year 2002 in Afghanistan. There was really a chaos. But with the support of United Nations, major donors like US, UK, Germany. A new government, roots of the new government started in year 2002. I think it was 2005, the first time the Ministry of Counter Narcotics was established. Actually, now this ministry is not anymore there. It is now combined with the Ministry of Interior. Is it a good idea or not? I don't know, but the problem is still there. Here, and I started to train the Afghan team in terms of processing satellite imagery, data collection, data analysis, and reporting. And I'm very proud that as of 2003, entire image processing, satellite image processing, reporting, data analysis, and everything done by Afghan team. And still, it is all done by the Afghan team based in Kabul. So all the reports that you are reading, Opium Poppy survey reports, is only done by the Afghan team, even now, because they were well trained between 2000 and 2009. And I would like to also thank my colleague, Shirish Rawan, who worked with me to train all the team members. We worked very hard to hand over this methodology. Of course, it would be great if this methodology was handed over to Afghanistan government fully, and I fully support this should have happened. But but because of some other problems, we couldn't manage. Although we pushed very hard, it didn't happen. But I believe now it should. There is no more reason not to hand over this survey to Afghan government, because there is now well-established Ministry of Interior. There is Statistics Office of Afghanistan, which was not in place in 2005, or it was limited capacity at that time. Now, the National Statistics Office of Afghanistan is very much capable to do such projects. What happened since 2002, and why not NATO or US or international organizations or United Nations was not able to stop the opium poppy cultivation in Afghanistan? First of all, we have to understand that drug cultivation in Afghanistan is heavily linked with terrorism. Unfortunately, until 2009, NATO didn't accept the clear link between terrorism and drug trafficking or drug cultivation. NATO always made a different argument. They didn't want, even the United Nations didn't accept the link between terrorism and drug trafficking or drug cultivation until 2009. Although we pushed very hard, although in every meeting I personally also argued with the important officers in NATO or different organizations, it was not possible. But however, in 2009, NATO accepted. And then this policy, they started to change the policy, but it was too late, because in 2005, actually, there was no Taliban forces or Taliban terrorist groups based in Afghanistan. They were all in Taliban. And the security strategy in 2002 was wrongly established. The main target of the NATO or international organizations were to secure the Kabul first and then spread the security. It was a good start, but however, Kandahar or Helmand, they didn't put enough attention, or they didn't put enough attention to the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, which is really transparent. There is no control at Afghan-Pakistan border even now. Tons of drugs or thousands of weapons can still traffic easily through these borders. So this was the main reason. Secondly, another reason, poverty. In year 2002, Afghans were poor. Year 2021, Afghans are still poor. There is billions of dollars reached Afghanistan every year, but Afghans are still suffering from poverty. Alternative livelihood. A lot of people tried different crops. oh, let's cultivate pomegranate, let's cultivate cotton, let's do this, let's do saffron, but nobody analyzed that actually. First, there is only 4 million hectare agricultural area in Afghanistan, and majority is not irrigated. So there is no irrigation channels in Afghanistan. First, secondly, there is no enough market for Afghan product, and there is no industry in the country. Still, there is no industry in the country. Afghanistan can produce different things than agriculture. Everybody focused on agriculture where it is very limited, and there is no industry in the country. Unemployment rate in today in Afghanistan 35%, even more, maybe 40%. And agriculture is not solution for this. The average amount of agricultural area in Afghanistan per farmer is very limited. It is around 1 jarib. 1 jarib is 1/5 of the hectare in Nangarhar. And how can a farmer uh, feed his family with 1 jarib of land in Nangarhar or in different parts of Afghanistan? So therefore, there is no way agricultural alternative livelihood options can work for Afghanistan. Unfortunately, alternative livelihood studies or projects, I don't want to undermine my other colleagues or other organizations, what they did. They really wanted to do something, but the starting point was wrong. Starting point was wrong because everybody focused on agriculture. They are still trying, but it will not happen. The alternative livelihood for Afghanistan is industry. Does anyone know that there are everything in Afghanistan to produce cement? But there is one thing missing: energy. Electric is missing. There is enough resources to produce electricity in Afghanistan. There is enough water. Northern Afghanistan is full of water, but there is no water management. There is no water resource management. There are very limited projects. There are very limited projects to produce electricity in Afghanistan. It is still the case. It is still the case. It is most of the Afghan villages. Farmers, people are still using generators, oil to produce electricity. But there are many rivers in Afghanistan that small hydropowers can be established and electricity can be produced. Unfortunately, still international organizations or community are focusing on wrong methodology about alternative livelihood. So, based on many wrong decisions or very, wrong strategies, Afghanistan couldn't manage to remove the opium poppy from the country until now. It was actually in year 2010, country was very close to remove the opium poppy cultivation in the country. I mean, because there was a new strategy called opium-free provinces. And half of the Afghanistan was opium-free on that time. Actually, most of the Afghanistan. Out of 34 provinces, around 20 provinces or more actually, 18 provinces were opium poppy free. But then the strategy reached its maximum on that time, and there was another strategy needed to remove opium poppy cultivation from Helmand, which is heart of the poppy cultivation in the world. Alone in Helmand, opium poppy cultivation is around 120, 150,000 hectares per year. This amount of opium poppy cultivation is enough to feed heroin and opium or morphine consumers all around the world. Please, I'm highlighting this. Only Helmand, the production in Helmand is enough to meet the entire illegal heroin or illegal opiate consumption in the world. Heroin, opium, and morphine. The rest of the Afghanistan is surplus. The opium poppy cultivation is also going on in Myanmar, Laos, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Bolivia, and these are surplus. So what is happening? This surplus amount of opium. Yes, I will explain this in coming videos. There are a lot of interesting things. Is it surplus or underestimation of opiate users in the world? I will explain this in coming videos. I would like to finish my video, with my first video in a few minutes, but if you like to have more questions, you can contact me through my email or through my personal webpage, hakandemirbiken.org. You can email me through hakanstat at gmail.com. My final words are about opium poppy production in Afghanistan. There are some interesting discussions about how much opium is needed to produce 1 kilo heroin. 7 kilo of opium is needed to produce 1 kilo brown heroin. And then if you add hydrochloric acid on it, you can have white heroin. How much heroin is consumed in the world? It is around between 400 to 450 tons of heroin. And how much, based on this, how much opium is needed to meet the entire heroin demand in the world? It is around 3,000 tons. How much opium is consumed in the world as the raw opium? It is around 2,000 tons, 1,500, 2,000 tons. And which are the countries mainly consuming opium? Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan mainly. Is India a major opium cultivating poppy cultivation? It is not, because I mentioned this only because according to the latest World Drug Report of UNODC, there are 10 million heroin users in India. It is unbelievable. There is no such number there is no 10 million heroin users in India. And I'm surprised that Indian government are still silent about this. Probably they were too busy about the COVID problem. Yes, as you see, there are too many things to discuss, too many things to address. And if you have any questions and if you have any comments, please contact with me. Thank you very much.